Insights channel, Steve here. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about some very alarming developments been going on actually for quite a few years, probably since about 2017. As you know, on my channel I talk about many topics, biblical, ones from the apocryphal books, talk about science, talk about angels, talk about the female Holy Spirit, talk about the fallen angels, do talk about lots of topics. Well, this one, I just give a couple of verses from the Bible, first of all, from Genesis, because I'm working on Genesis, I'm working on creation in my new book, the second book of Enoch, Insights, which is all about creation. But I'm very, very concerned about what's going on this planet right now, because there are powers that are deliberately destroying God's creation, as you all well know, but it's becoming more manifest and very clear. I just got a letter from somebody, a friend who lives down in Africa, in Uganda, and he said the following. He sent me this information, which I found absolutely shocking. I think it's one of these things where we don't really take the seriousness of the situation, and I'm talking about that millions of birds are dying on this planet. So this is called here, the birds are dying on a worldwide scale. Why? He sent me this email yesterday. He said, Steve, this is just so sad. It makes me cry. We have so much bird song and birds of every kind in our garden in Uganda that they are part of our life. We immediately noticed when we came to the UK recently that there is no bird song in the morning to wake up to, and besides a few gulls. And no, they're not staying in London either. They are staying out in the countryside of the southeast of England as we speak. We have only seen one bird standing alone in the park since we've been here. Now think about that. They're out in the countryside. There's no birds. And one of my daughters told me a couple of days ago the same sort of thing. She told me that this summer she noticed the birds, like the geese, the ducks, were flying away too soon, too early, and sometimes when they're flying in V formation, they're out of sorts. They look disorientated. Something's not right. And then also my daughter said by the sea that this whole summer that she saw thousands and thousands of birds dead on the beach. So there's a lot of people observing these things, and I'd like to ask my audience, you know something about dying bird populations and other things where you live? I'd love to hear about it so we can make more people aware of these dangers, of why the birds literally falling out the sky by the thousands, and someplace 500,000. I'll give you some details in a minute as to why. I know some of the reasons why it's happening. But I just want to bring your attention here first to, here is a Bible verse out of Genesis 1. What was God's first commandment? God blessed them, saying, be fruitful, multiply, and let the fowl multiply on the earth. God's intent, there will be plenty of creatures on the earth, plenty of birds, plenty of great variety of birds. In fact, it's actually fascinating. That's why today I put a lot of pictures of birds on this audio in the background, because I think the birds is one of the things that gives people a lot of joy. I've been in countries like Brazil, having parrots in our garden and all kinds of very colourful birds, and then you live in warm climates, you can also see things like pelicans and all kind of amazing things. And you live there further to the east, you can even live in land where there are tigers and leopards and all kind of very colourful creatures. But what concerns me today is the birds, because we have noticed the last 2 winters here in Scotland that all the kind of birds that come here from Scandinavia, colourful birds that come in the winter to escape the ferocious winters in the north, they come here. and we get to see them in the winter. But for the last 2 winters, they haven't arrived. And we see less and less birds in our garden, and I see less and less up in the forest too. But I just want to read a little bit about this, and like I say, we need your help because we want to make a lot more people aware of the dangers and why it's happening, because there is a reason. And I think a lot of it has to do with 5G. See what the scientists here say. So, it says here, global extent of bird Armageddon. Anders Brunstad, that's a Norwegian, alerted me to the installation of one of the most powerful radar stations in the world on the Varanger Peninsula in Finnmark, Norway, that's the north of Norway, just before tens of thousands of birds fell dead all over the peninsula. The southern and eastern coast of the peninsula also have 4G plus and increasingly 5G service added recently. At Ektoroi Nature Reserve on the southern coast of the peninsula, at least 15,000 endangered kittiwakes died at the end of July and the beginning of August 2023. They nest there in the summer on high cliffs where they are directly in the line of fire of the radar, which is some 50 kilometers away. Powerful beams there, powerful radiation. The restaurant at Ektoroi was forced to close for the summer because it was raining down dead birds. Now that sounds a bit similar to what my daughter saw on the beach, not that far away from us. The total population of these seabirds in Norway was only about 50,000. Dead terns and other kinds of gulls have also been collected. Half of the cranes at Ektoroi have died. Yes, I know that in the last 6 years there's been a lot of deaths of birds and animals all over the world, but it's increasing. The problem is the situation is getting worse ever since they installed 5G. Just not more than a couple of years ago, maybe less. In fact, it was 1.5 years ago, I think. The radar called Globus 3 was built by the United States on the island of Vardøya in Vardø, the easternmost city in Norway, which is across the bay from northern Russia. It appears to be part of a civil defense network called the Space Fence. Details about this site, okay, are kept secret. But anyway, okay, because it's about the US military. What it describes it as, this system is a one-of-a-kind design that will be fielded in 2023. The program is a binational, collaborative, specialized collection system. The Globus program is a dual-band ground-based radar system consisting of S-band solid-state phased X-ray, an X-band dish antenna integrated system controller. Alright, something complicated, obviously sounds like spying on Russia or not far away from Russia. Other space fence radars are located at Kwajalein Island in the Marshall Islands and Western Australia. These S-band 5G and 4G phased array radars each have 36,000 transmitting antennas, a peak of power of 2.7 megahertz, or megawatts, sorry. And when focused into a narrow beam that scans the sky in all directions, a peak effective radiated power of several billion watts. The conflagration is not confined to Finnmark or to Norway. Last summer I reported on mass deaths of nesting seabirds in locations near new antennas in the Netherlands and France. This summer the situation is immensely worse. Talk about right now. The continued proliferation around the world of 4 and 5G cell towers and antennas, as well as offshore wind farms, has killed millions of wild birds on 5 continents. Foxes, skunks, raccoons, fishes, badgers, martens, black bears, grizzly bears, bobcats, lynx, mountain lions, wild boar, otters, Virginia opossums, seals, penguins and other animals. Last year, 40% of the Dalmatian pelicans nesting in Greece died. Think of that, 40%. Along with 20% those in Romania. Large numbers in Montenegro and Albania. By May 2023, more than 50,000 dead wild birds of all kinds had been reported in the United Kingdom. Yikes, that's where I am. 40,000 in eastern Canada. Tens of thousands in the United States. And by July the 31st, 2023, China was reporting 5,100 dead birds in Tibet. Reports of mortality have come from every state in the United States across 129 species of birds. Huge numbers of bald eagles have died. Oh, that's tragic. Just in November and December 2022, more than 50,000 seabirds died along the coast of Peru, including 16,890 Peruvian pelicans. Oh no. 4,300 brown boobies, both endangered in Peru. In Chile, as of January 1st, 2023, 10,000 seabirds have died, including pelicans, kelp gulls, belcher gulls, grey gulls, guanay, cormorants, Peruvian boobies, elegant terns, and turkey vultures. On May 9, 2023, the Chilean government reported the deaths of 30,000 seabirds. And on July 21, 2023, the Peruvian government reported the staggering number of deaths of 519,000 seabirds. These represented birds of 65 species. In addition, Chile reported the deaths of thousands of Humboldt penguins, Magellanic penguins, 17,000 sea lions, and smaller numbers of dolphins, porpoises, otters, other kinds of seals. While Peru reported the deaths of 9,000 sea lions and 100 other sea animals. According to a network of expertise on animal influenza, Chile has lost at least 13% of its Humboldt penguins. Peru has lost at least 36% of its Peruvian pelicans. Chile and Peru together have lost at least 9% of their sea lions. Ornithologists are all blaming this catastrophe on an avian influenza, in spite of the fact that most of the dead birds are testing negative for any influenza virus, and the ones that test positive have all different variants of the virus, so could not be transmitted to each other, let alone to bears and penguins. Wow. Okay, so they don't think it's the reasons given, officially given, for the deaths of these creatures. From what I can see, the reason for the deaths of the birds, numbers, some countries like 500,000 birds, that's an incredible amount of birds, is because of the influence of 5G. And in the seas, well, the seas have been polluted ever since they had that terrible accident over in Japan and dumped so much poison and radiation into the sea. I think our seas are so polluted they're killing all kind of creatures now. But it's amazing to me how we're all distracted by the latest news and what's going on, and yet we've failed to see that it's very dangerous, such a large quantity of the creatures in the sea and the fowl in the air, the birds, and many creatures are dying. They're part of God's creation, as are we. It's just madness. And I think that's the whole plan of Satan has been from the beginning. Destroy God's creation and destroy man. They seem to be well on the way to achieving their goals, unless something changes. That's not the only things that are disappearing too. The disappearance of bugs has also been in the news. Dr. Norman Lepler, professor of entomology at the University of Florida, said that the state's love bug infestation has completely vanished. They used to come in massive numbers in the spring, fall, around May and September, with a little variation depending on if you're in the northern or southern part of the state. It's not subtle. They're really not here this season, he said in an interview. But no one is blaming that on avian influenza. So as you can see, that's a pretty sad report of things. And there's a little bit more here. I'll read some more. It says wind farms are also devastating birds, as documented by German scientists, published in Nature, April 13, 2023. They found that populations of red-throated loons plummeted in the North Sea after 5 clusters of offshore wind farms were built there between 2010 and 2014. The populations declined by an average of 94% within 1 kilometre of a wind farm, 52% within 10 kilometres, with some population reduction at distance of up to 24 kilometres away. So wind farms out to sea are pretty dangerous. Wind farms are also killing whales. Who would suspect that? These 32 whales have washed up dead on the US East Coast in recent months, prompting a group of New Jersey legislators to do something about it. Communities that are waking up. Sanity has broken out in, I can't pronounce that, Chhattisgarh Gariban district in the Indian village of Lakira, home to some 600 families. The village resolution prohibits the installation of any cell towers in order to protect the birds. We have learnt that the transmission towers called radiation is harmful. We'd rather prefer to live with weak network connectivity from the adjoining locations. It's a delight to welcome open-billed storks with the onset of the monsoon. They nest in the trees of our village and no one in the village disturbs them. We don't permit any mobile phone service provider to establish their tower despite the pressure and temptation from them, said Uday Nishad, the elected head of the village government. They learnt this by scientists at C.V. Ramal University, that was conducted in 2017 of birds in the vicinity, 9 cell towers in the Bijapur district. Reviewing 113 studies on the ecological effects of RF radiation, the authors wrote, when birds are exposed to weak electromagnetic fields, they disorient, they fly in all directions, which harm their natural navigational abilities. I think that's what my daughter saw with the geese and ducks not flying right, and at the wrong time of year. A large number of birds like pigeons, sparrows, swans are getting lost due to interference by the unseen enemy, radiation, radar. A mobile tower. It has also been noted of late that animals used near mobile towers are prone to various dangers and threats to life, including stillbirths, spontaneous abortions, birth deformities, behavioural problems, and general decline in overall health. Electromagnetic pollution is a possible cause for deformations and decline of some amphibian populations too. Apart from birds and animals, electromagnetic radiation emanating from cell towers can also affect vegetable, crop and plants in its vicinity. They visited the areas where each cell tower was located for 2 to 3 hours in the morning and 2 to 3 hours in the evening every day for 6 months, and counted birds, peacocks, wild ducks, crows, parrots, cocoons, sparrows, wild pigeons, eagles and woodpeckers. There were far fewer of every kind of bird in 2017 than there had been in a survey conducted in 2006, before the towers were erected. It bears repeating yet again that influenza, whether in people, animals or birds, is not caused by a virus and has never been demonstrated to be a contagious disease. In 1918, at the height of the Spanish influenza, attempts by medical teams in Boston, San Francisco to demonstrate the contagious nature of the flu met with complete and resounding failure. Such experiments in humans were published at the time. Wow, I didn't know that before. Well, the longest chapter in the book, chapter 16, is devoted in part to the effects of electromagnetic radiation on birds. Some diseases are caused by viruses, but influenza is not one of them. I suggest once again that all birds conservation organizations should acquire my book, read it carefully, and that is written by Arthur Fitzenberg, president and author of The Birds Are Dying on a Worldwide Scale. Why? But I think the name of the book is Global Extent of Burned Armageddon, and it's also the subject is Global Extent of Bird Armageddon. Okay, in case you want to look that up more. But I think we should all be very concerned about why are all the birds dying, why are so many animals and creatures in the sea dying. After all, God created them all, and they're dying. And I was thinking also, this 5G and this radiation, if it's affecting the birds and the animals, how is it affecting mankind? I'd appreciate your thoughts on these matters. I'd love to hear from people if you've experienced things along the same line, heard of things, read things. We'd love to know what was. Send in if you can, or any links, so we can publish it for everyone else to see the dangers of the extinction of not only humanity, but all the creatures that God's created as well. And I think people need to wake up to the fact that you won't find on this planet powers that are actually trying to help mankind. Not until Jesus returns. Only when Jesus comes back, then things will change and all evil is going to get locked up in the bottomless pit. But in the meantime, the devil's on a rampage trying to destroy everything. And it saddens me great to hear these stories about the birds being destroyed, beautiful songbirds, beautiful creatures, all just dropping dead, dropping out of the sky, as many people have already told me. If you know something about this topic, then please do write in. So my email at stephen.strutt, S-T-R-U-T-T, at btinternet.com. Love to hear from you. And I'd like to encourage people to get hold of my books. Get my 2 books there on the paranormal, supernatural, that contain a lot of topics like this and why these things happen. There's a lot of science in them. So that's Out the Bottomless Pit. Books 1 and 2 talk about these kind of topics. So thanks very much for listening, everybody. Have a great day.